He's got some stuff. Okay, guys, welcome to the More Listings Mastermind. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt. We're going to get right to it. We're going to get right to our special guest, Rafael Dagnesses. I'll tell you, what's up, brother? How you doing, Raf?
How are you? And Robert, could I give you a piece of advice really quick?
Oh, I would love it.
Okay, as you know, you remember I was an LA cop for many years, right? So we carried backup guns that were hidden, either in our pockets or on our ankles or inside our vest. I highly recommend that you go ahead and have a backup laptop when you're
Uh,
doing your podcast.
I do have
And
a
ready to
backup
go.
laptop. It's right here.
Oh,
It's
okay.
literally right here.
That's your backup weapon right there, man. It has to be ready to go. Hit the button and you keep going.
Good, good, good. Well, hey, listen, let's get right into it. So let's
All
let's
right.
tell the audience who's Rafael.
My name is Rafael Dagnesses. I'll give you a little short background. I grew up in South LA, Central LA, South LA. I served 16 years in the Marine Corps. I was a LA cop for many, many years, but I actually started my real estate career at the age of 20 when I was on active duty in the Marine Corps. I had a staff sergeant in my office. I was on recruiting duty, and his side hustle was real estate. He was a real estate broker, and he would leave the office at the end of the day, change his uniform like Superman, and then put on a suit and then go show houses. Well, that guy forced me to buy a house as an investor at the age of 20. So I bought a house in Highland Park, and my first tenant was an ex-con that just got out of prison. So I'm kind of a short guy. I'm 5'8". This guy was like probably about 6'2", about almost 300 pounds. He was a monster. And I took this stupid real estate course at Glendale College, where the instructor was actually a former special forces guy, and he was talking about being a landlord. He goes, "Screw the law, screw the rules, just scare the hell out of them, and let them know that if they don't pay the rent, you're going to toss them out." I took him. I thought he was joking around, but I went ahead and told my first tenant, "Hey, listen, by the way, if you're late with the rent, I'm going to come here and toss all your shit on the street." And anyway, long story short, that guy was the best tenant. We had him for 5 years. That's how I got into real estate. Um, During my time as a policeman, I was just an investor. And then in 1997, 97, you remember those guys, Paul Pagnoni, oh my God, Henry Suarez up in the LA area.
Sure.
I ended up meeting those guys and then did REO for about 7 years under their wing. And in 2003, I broke away, started my own organization. In 2003, we were getting ready for 2008. We just thought it was going to happen in 2005. So it was called Quantum Group, and we prepared, traveled the whole country. Hold on a sec. My son's trying to call me from Germany. Let me decline. Hold on. There you go. And
Calling from Germany. Decline.
decline. Yeah. He's deployed right now. But anyway, and yeah, 2003 got into a major seven-figure hole getting ready for the 2008 market. In 2007, pre 2008, we did about $147 million in REO before REO actually kicked in. Does that sound familiar?
Yep.
I believe this is where we're at right now. I don't believe we're ever going to see 2008 again, but we have been doing the business already for several years, and we can get into that conversation. So I basically run an organization that's internal. We have agents around the country, and then we also cooperate with agents that are not part of our organization. We go outside and recruit agents not to become part of our organization, but to handle our clients' REOs in cities around the country where we don't have a presence. And that's obviously most of the country. So if you have any people on this call that has actual REO experience, feel free to contact me, send me your resume, and I'll look at the territory. But we get them all over the place.
And I think that's the biggest thing to remember is a lot of folks that are on this call may not have been around the last time the REO market was here. The last time it was real active is, two, three, four is when the BPO started coming in, the lots of
Right.
activity. And then five, bam, we had 40 assignments in June of '05 on my desk. It kept flowing. Then the moratorium hit in 2008, nine, and then it started to slow down. It transitioned to short sales. My point is, we don't want anyone to lose their home. We don't want anyone to lose
No.
their home. However, There's a lot of folks out there. If you track and measure the notice of default, the notice of trustees in your market, those numbers are up. They're up huge. First things first, coming from a traditional real estate standpoint, most of us have been done traditional real estate up to this point. And reaching out to the pre-foreclosure folks, the notice of default, the notice of trustees, the folks that are staring down the barrel of a foreclosure, we need to reach out to them with compassion. We need to come from contribution. And most everybody I talk to, Ralph, in that space, they want to keep their home. Most of them cannot. So I don't want anyone to lose their home ever, never, 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 never. However, there are some opportunities for corporate sales. And I personally have grown up in the business of around the corporate sale area. So Ralph, talk about that. Talk about some of the corporate relationships that you see out there and some of the opportunities for the folks listening.
Yeah. Interesting enough, this time around, all the REOs that we're handling, by the way, let me go back in time a little bit. So in 2007, between 2007 and 2013, there was only actually 8 of us in our organization, and we only covered California and Maricopa County in Arizona. We did over 6,000 transactions. So on any given day, we had about 1,000. As you know, REO takes a long time to dispo, the management and all that. But at any given day, we had anywhere between 800 to 1,100 properties in our pipeline during that period of time. It was very intense, very stressful. I actually hope I never see that again. But a hell of opportunity. A lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of new agents were able to scale up really fast under our wing. And, it was good times. But this time around, I have yet to deal with any REO that an actual family is being removed from the house. Every REO that we're dealing with is institutional. It's either a hedge fund, private money. There's a lot of investor fraud out there, and investors that went in. I'll give you an example. We were dealing with a group out of Miami that's from another country, and they had properties up and down Florida where they pulled out commercial loans from a bank in California, and their underwriting obviously was very loose, and these guys pulled millions and millions of dollars on properties here in Florida after the hurricane, never fixed anything, and then walked away. And it took 3 years for the REO to finally get through. And this is what we were handling. That's what I see all over the country. California, specifically in the Bay Area, some really high, our team up there did over $100 million this last year in 2024 up in the Bay Area. It was insane. I never seen REOs that are $8 million. And we sold them. I mean, it's nuts. I've never seen that before. So this time around, it's very, very different. I think there's a lot more different opportunities. It's definitely more horizontal than vertical. What I mean by that is you got to reach out to more people, to more organizations, more institutions, versus last time around. Let's say if you had a Fannie account or whatever account, and all of a sudden your pipeline, you have 50, 100 properties from that one organization. I don't believe you're going to see that this time around. Specifically, if you're paying attention politically, the last few years, the government and the banks were in cahoots, and they were hiding what was actually going on with REO defaults. Fannie Mae was selling their portfolios under the radar to BlackRock and others like they did in 2012. Wells Fargo got rid of their entire default portfolio. I think it was like 2 years ago. No one knew anything about it. So we're technically not handling bank owned. We're handling properties that used to be bank owned that now are owned by financial institutions, right? Hedge funds and whatever. So it's a totally different dynamic. Yeah, I mean, we're learning. Every day is something new. We just got a new account up here in Central Florida and near Tampa, and excuse the language, but it's kind of a shit show. We used to, Robert, you and your mother were in the business forever. We used to deal with really professional asset managers, and from 2008 on, and now. Especially with the financial institutions, they seem not to have professional asset managers. There could be some bank or whatever, and they don't understand REO, and you have to help guide them. and very carefully, because in their mind, they know everything. There's some, 7-figure banker, and they just opened up a default unit inside the bank, and they haven't hired an experienced REO asset manager. They struggle. And if they struggle, they're causing us to struggle, and it becomes very difficult.
You know what, Ralph? To coattail off of that, I've had my fair share of REOs. Nothing like it was before, but I've one here, one there, one here, different banks, one here at a time, and I am noticing that most of the asset managers we're working with are kind of little green. They're new at this. They're looking for advice from us. So it's important that we have a pretty good grip on how to help them navigate the transaction. There's a lot of moving parts in REO. One thing I want to expand on is you scale up fast by touching base and getting plugged into your team. Can we expand on that just a moment?
Regarding the people on this call, for example.
Yeah, just with people that are listening to it on this call, or people listening to it on the podcast, what are some of the ways that they can scale up fast to get involved in this market that's truly going to be here shortly?
Yeah. They got to get in it now. I'll give you an example. How people have changed, and I've talked to quite a few brokers about this. It seems like the new generation of agents expect instant gratification, meaning that they get into the business and they think they're going to be making money right away. In fact, my own son just joined me recently, graduated from the University of Alabama, and was working in Wall Street. And I said, hey, I think you're going to be able to pay off your loans a lot faster if you come work for me. At least give me 2 years. We're working on, obviously, about the hub. And he's only been with me a few months, and he's already going to make a few $1,000. And he's like, this is shit. I was already complaining. I go, you got to be kidding. We did over 400 BPOs for Wells Fargo before we got one listing back in the day. And they never paid us a dime for any of those BPOs. If you remember, they drop them on a Friday, and then, hey, we want a Monday. And you just did it. So, we had to pay the price and just really work hard for a very long time before we saw the benefits. So I highly recommend that if you want to get into that side of the business, if you don't have the experience, you find people that do have the experience and get under the wing while you're doing your own thing. You cannot stop doing your regular retail business. You cannot. Huge opportunities on what Robert was talking about reaching out to people that are in trouble, and you need to help them. Now, if you don't know the short sell game, you're not going to be able to help them, because that game in itself is a nightmare. But what you can do is find someone that is an expert in that space and bring them create a partnership with them where you're going to pay them a good chunk of money. In some cases, they may want more money than what you can make. But remember, you're the listing agent, and you're the one with the relationship with those clients. So, but bringing in a true professional and creating a team is absolutely critical. I think there's going to be massive opportunities in the short sell game, better than REO, actually, if you play it right. So you got to get in now. If you wait a year, you're going to be too late.
So to take on that real quick, so the now business, most of us agents that are on this call, we're working with now business, people that are selling their home, mom and dad usually, right? The now business are FSBOs, expireds, and the pre-foreclosure. That's now business, helping those folks. FSBOs and expireds, obvious, right?
I add Airbnb into that pipeline for now business.
Yep.
And you can use your title reps or whoever to seek out non-occupied properties and look at what's going on with them, and then start sending personal letters and notes to these individuals.
Well, just to expand on that, not only the Airbnb folks, and we don't want anything to happen to those folks either, but my point is there's a lot of sellers out there that are starting to stress out a little bit with what's going on. You have the non-owner occupieds, whether it be Airbnb, short-term rental, or it's just they have tenants in there. A lot of landlords that I talk to right now are just done dealing with tenants. And depending on what state you're in, I know if you're in California, it's leans towards the tenant. It's very difficult to be a landlord in California.
A
So
lot of 1031s, a lot
yeah.
of 1031s leaving the state of California for the last several years. I mean, we're talking about big, giant numbers.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, and this isn't a political comment. I was just reading, U-Haul salesperson of the year is Gavin Newsom out of California. So because all the people that are moving out of California using the U-Haul, but I thought that was a pretty funny thing. But I think the biggest thing to remember is now business. That's how we eat today. FSBO's expired, sure. Pre foreclosure, you're doing a great job reaching out to them because every single pre foreclosure seller or owner that I've talked to, they always want to keep their home, but a very low percentage of them actually can. So reaching out to them before it goes into a foreclosure process is a great way to build your listing inventory, great way to help folks out, whether it be a cash offer or getting a 14-day home offers to get them the highest and best price. But also what it does working with the pre-foreclosure, Ralph, and this is more for you, is when you're working with a pre-foreclosure space, you're getting to know the loss mitigation folks. You're getting to know the lingo. You're getting to understand what that pre-foreclosure looks like. So when it does come time and does rear its ugly head, we're positioned and we're ready to go. How can we expand on some of the clients, Ralph, that we should be working with? What should we be doing to position ourselves to work with the default space? Do you have any insight on that?
Before I go there, I have full blown ADD and I get distracted very easily. So I'm looking at one of the Tim Yates in the background has this thing, last will and testament. And that's talking about last will and testament. The probate and the trust cell hooking up with attorneys in that space is a now business
Yep.
that people don't really talk about. We actually mutually know someone in the LA area that destroys it in that space. I mean, just kills it.
Yeah.
And it requires a little, utilizing your network and finding out, if you know some attorneys, those attorneys know probate and trust attorneys, and then creating a relationship with those guys is absolutely critical. And that's a now business now
Yeah.
and in the future.
Sure.
And sadly, death is part of life, and people need help in that space.
Amen. Well, you know what? And Tim will be actually coming on after you're done to talk a little bit about what he's doing in the trust space. So I can't wait to hear from Tim. One of the thing is, I know, remember back in the day, it was the glue stick era. It was we run out, we take our photos of a property, we run to the 1 hour photo, we wait there for an hour, we get the photos, we run back to the office, we bust out the typewriter, we get our glue stick, and we pop those on the photo addendum.
You failed to say what kind of typewriter. IBM Selectric 2. Okay, I don't know who's holding up to remember those.
Yeah.
Oh God, they weighed about 100 pounds.
Yeah, but it's a little different nowadays. So there's lots of different opportunities. You can get signed up with the banks through the asset management companies. Obviously, you want to get signed up with Equator and ResNet and get on those platforms, the Pyramid platform, getting with different REO companies like ADR and the REO Alliance that you and I are associated with Larry White, Jeff Russell, and Eric Bengal. There's lots of different things you can do to get plugged in. And I think the biggest thing we need to do is we need to remember that we're well-rounded working with, obviously FSBOs and expired, which I just love, but the pre-foreclosure and the post-foreclosure. Ralph, what else do you want to expand on, and what opportunities are out there?
One thing I wanted to say, and this applies to any industry. I used to tell my agents, I go, listen, do not focus on the money, focus on the client. Absolutely focus on the client. I have a reputation, and this is the way I was trained, and from law enforcement into my military, my parents. I provide services and a service that is beyond what is expected. I go way beyond on behalf of my clients, both retail and on the REO space. When I first started, my first 5 years, I think about 75-80% of my clients were all first responders, because that was part of my network. It was an easy thing. And, and cops have trust issues. So it was an easy connection because I was one of them. Right. But I did not take advantage on the fact that, this guy Joe Schmuckatelli. I worked with him in a patrol car, and now I'm selling him a house. I didn't take that. I didn't take that person for granted, is what I'm trying to say. I really stepped it up. My level of service for that individual, even though it was a very good friend of mine, in case actually one of them was my best man in my wedding, I was the best man in his wedding. I treated him like a complete stranger as far as the transaction goes. I went beyond, and then I showered them with love after the fact, meaning that I really went completely out of my way for my clients. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard this saying, most real estate agents buy their business. You have to pay to get business, right? But there's nothing better than earning your business. And that means the referral business. When people are coming to you because you've done such a fantastic job for them, you've really gone out of the way, and it's a reminder. I used to do things like, for example, on my retail clients, the demographics, the neighborhood, everything's depending. If it's a young family that has a lot of a network, I'll go, okay, guess what, guys? I'm hosting your housewarming party. And I would host their housewarming party. The food, the drinks, invitations, and I'd leave little things. And then at that party, they're telling everyone here, hey, here's Rafael. This is our agent. This is the guy that got us this great house. My God. And a couple of times, believe it or not, I brought in mariachis, whatever. And I did all kinds of crazy things. Of course, as the years went by, I transitioned from retail into the REO space, but then I do the same thing with my clients. I mean, clients have found out that I've crawled underneath houses to deal with, some plumbing issue because the vendor can't get there, and I need to identify a problem. And they're going, what's this broker that was wearing a 3-piece suit? This is years back. All of a sudden I'm taking it off and I'm putting, overalls on, and I'm crawling underneath, and some other agent from the organizations, they're going, what the fuck is this guy doing? And they take a picture, and they send it off. He's nuts. That's what I mean. I always go beyond what is expected of me. And I really believe that it comes back to you 10X.
Yeah, I hear you.
Not always, but it does.
Amen, brother. We had one recently, a client that you and I both work with. There was a tree that was hanging over the roof, and we couldn't get somebody out there quick enough. The appraiser needed to sign off. I got up there with the chainsaw and cut around the tree, and I was up on the roof. And you just got to do stuff like that, and that's huge. So let's transition to Default Real Estate Hub. Let's explain to the audience what that is.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to launch a Zillow-like website that specializes in the default space, distress space, short sale, any of all the special classes of real estate. We're talking about institutional, we're talking about probate, and we've been working on that for some time. I think about a year now. There's some heavy hitters behind it. And, you and I have spoken about it. You're going to be doing podcasting for the organization. But we've also created a certification process. Let me ask you this. How many REO agents are on this call?
I can see a handful already. And I know a lot of the folks that are going to listen to this will be in the REO space.
Okay, great. So you all know that you get text calls from these silly investors that will waste your time because they probably went to a weekend seminar where they paid $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to basically get these little talking points, and they annoy the shit out of us. We don't have time to be clowning around with these guys and their creative lending process that no one's ever heard of. So it's all BS, and we don't have time for that. So we've created a certification process for prospective investors and also regular buyers, where they come in and they actually take a course. They got to pass the test. Once they're certified, we're actually marrying, connecting the agents that list these properties on a national level inside the platform. So the consumer doesn't have full access to the platform until they're certified. And then they can reach out to those agents. Here's the great thing for you agents. It's free. You're not going to pay a dime. You're not going to pay a dime to be on the platform, and you're not going to pay referral fees or anything. What we want is real consumers consumers, Americans, regular Americans, not institutions to benefit from this. The first time buyer, the regular investor, mom and pop, whoever, which is the majority of the buyers anyway out there. So we're educating them, bringing them into a space that is not easy to get into. And then we're giving the opportunity for the outsourcers and the agents to be able to market. And we're making the platform very simple, meaning that you're going to be able to input the data in less than 2-3 minutes. It's not a full blown, it's the basics, the very basics. You're going to be able to promote yourself. And if we like what we see, then we're going to take that content of yours and we're going to market it for you for free in the different platforms that we're utilizing. So I'm giving you the short version. It's about to come out very soon. Yeah, we're really excited about it. And this is not, a EXP product or whatever product. This is for all agents from all companies in all 50 states.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting. There's nothing like it out there. And imagine, for the first time ever, agents don't have to pay for something, because that's all. We're always being shaken down, right? For money for this, money for that. Some stupid webinar. I mean, not webinar, some seminar, and some guys jumping up and down telling you how much money you're going to make if you give them $10,000. And that happens to specifically civilians out there. I mean, they get ripped off all the time.
I hear it. Spoken like a true Marine / LA cop. I love it.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I used the word civilian.
but before I forget, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. You ran for Congress. Tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Oh God, you had to bring that up, huh? Yeah. So I actually ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2014. The machine made sure that I couldn't move, and they squeezed me out. And I fought the machine, and I lost big. I mean, in a huge way. And then in 2016, I ran again for the same space. And this time I was able to punch the machine a little bit. I won I won the primary. I went to the general, but I couldn't get the machine to come support me. They endorsed me. That was about it. But boy, I learned the internal workings of government. I was in DC, and I will tell you, this is we already knew a lot regarding the REO space, right? For what we went through. And I mean, it's just really crappy. And the American people knew what really goes on. If I actually exposed the whole thing, I think they'd put a hit on me. Okay. All the things that I learned, but it's really crappy. And that's one of the reasons why I've been motivated to create this platform, to bring the opportunities to regular Americans, because the people at the very top are the ones buying all this stuff up. And then regular Joe doesn't have that opportunity. By the way, I want to go back a little bit regarding some of the assets. We've actually, believe it or not, we've actually had some assets in the last 24 months that were defaulted in 2010, 11, 12, and 13.
Wow.
So I don't know if you've seen that, Robert, but we've had a few of those, and it just scratched my head. So these people have actually been living in these houses for free that long.
I had one of my agents that was in foreclosure for 8 or 9 years, kept kicking the can down the road. As long as she paid her HOA, she kept living in her home for like $1,000 a month. And finally that came to an end. But there's a lot of folks pushing the envelope, and there's a whole nother conversation on that, but we'll digress.
There's that. I had one of my neighbors, he's driving around a $200,000 Mercedes, and he hadn't paid his mortgage like in 7 years, and he would laugh about it, while he's going to Fiji and all his vacations around the world. So those kind of people I actually don't feel sorry for if they get booted out of their house.
But there's a lot of good folks out there that have fallen into some situations, and that's what we need to do. So let's do this. What is the message that we want to end with? What do we want to say to the agent that's either on this call or listening to it in their car down the road on Spotify or watching it on YouTube? What do we want to say to the agent that's thinking they want to get into the default space?
If you don't have the experience, I would start off with maybe one of the BPO companies, and start doing that. I mean, being excellent at BPOs is absolutely critical. You can make your mistakes, hopefully minimally, while you're working for a BPO company, because you're not a listing agent at that point. But you can still make some money on that if you do it right. There's different ways of doing that. We won't get into that right now.
Yeah.
So I would start with that. The second is find someone in your market or in your company that does REO. The fact is that there are actually very few REO agents in comparison to the masses out there. And ask them to do open houses for them, do whatever. I actually have agents that are in my organization that came to me back in '08 and say, hey, could I do your open houses? And they did such a great job and they had a great personality. I say, hey, why don't you just join us? And they become one of our listing agents. So those are the little things that I would do. No different than retail, finding mentors, being on calls like this. You got to just consume knowledge. You can't stop consuming knowledge, and then you can't give up. There's always opportunity. And here's something that I have also noticed, and this, I think there's gonna be opportunities for new people to step in. I've always been open for new people to come in. I've noticed that some of the old dogs, I'm going to say the old dogs that have been in the business a long time, are making some really bad errors. And I've been shocked of the really crappy work that I've seen out there. I don't know if they've given up, they're tired, or they just don't care anymore. But I think in any industry right now, after COVID, I think there's been a psychological shift in the world or in our country specifically regarding customer service, how to treat people, just being excellent and having a work ethic. And there's just a lack of work ethic all the way across. So what that means to me is that's an opportunity. Because if you have the right work ethic, you don't quit, you go out there, you do the right thing, you go chase the business, you're consistent, you don't stop, you're going to kill it. You're going to kill it because the vast majority of people just want something for nothing. Okay. And that's just not reality. And there's a pushback on that. So food for thought on that. I like to end it with that.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Angela just mentioned Dalton started out as her licensed assistant 10 years ago. Now he's a crusher. And that's just, is that your son, Angela?
Yep, he certainly is. Handsome too, isn't he?
Oh, he certainly is. Good looking young man. I think that's great. Ralph, I tell you, man, I appreciate it. We've, Rebecca mentioned she did a short sale 2.5 years. It took the final day right before it was to close. The bank refused it and the buyers waited 2 years. That is brutal. There's nothing short about a short sale. I can tell you that. So thanks for that.
No.
Any questions for Ralph before we let him go, before we get to Tim Yates? There's your chance.
I have a quick question. What's a BPO company?
What's a BPO company? A broker price.
I know what a BPO is, but I didn't know there were BPO companies.
Oh yeah, there's lots of BPO mills, we like to call them, where they do a bunch of BPOs. They don't even use your name on it, so you got to be careful with that. But I think that what Ralph was talking about earlier is doing BPOs for wells. Now, for instance, when you're doing BPOs and they're asking you to do a BPO for them, that you're doing a nice gesture. Now, I don't know if I would do a couple hundred for free, but I'll certainly do a few for free to let them know what the level of service I can provide and the valuations that I bring in are strong. It's kind of like my calling card. So there's BPO mills where they'll just have you do a bunch of BPOs, inspections, and literally will drive no business. But there's also companies that say, can you do this BPO for me? It's a second opinion. It's one of our REO listings. Then you're in their database. Then they know how you do it. So there's two different types you need to be prepared for.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
So I think one of them, isn't there is it Clear Capital?
Clear Capital does a lot of inspections,
but they're also doing BPOs.
Oh, they do BPOs as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I mean, you just got to figure out what your time is. I'm a big fan of doing BPOs. I'm also a fan of asking for the business. So if I'm going to do a BPO for somebody, bring in a really good value, I'm going to want to expect some kind of long-term relationship where there's the REO listings will come as well. So I have no problem doing the BPOs as long as it allows me the opportunity to get the listing. And that's because I'm a listing agent, not a BPO agent.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions for Ralph before we let him get out of here?
Somebody wanted his contact information.
Yeah. We'll go ahead. I'll send it out with the.
Send it out.
Yeah.
Just make sure when you email me, send me your resume. It doesn't have to be, a formal resume. Just tell me your name, what company you're with, and what market, and what your experience is, where your market is. Okay. And then I'll just put you on a database. I may call you an interview. You see a lot of people have BS on their resume, and all of a sudden, they really don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, I will call you, and I get calls probably about every 2 to 3 days. Hey, Ralph, who do you have in this market? Okay, so I'll explain how our program works, and then we'll go from there.
I get a lot of calls. My most recent one was, do you have anybody in Dover, Delaware? I was like, what's going on in Dover, Delaware? But we get calls all the time, Ralph, just like you were saying. And who do you have here? Who do you have there? I just had somebody that say, who do you have in Wichita, Kansas? We just referred a nice listing to them. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That's why it's important when you're jumping on these Zoom calls, have your city, tell us where you're from. We know, obviously Angela's from Washington and Florida because it's right on our screen. We need to make sure that we're always working the opportunity. Don't be a secret agent. Let people know what's going on. So Ralph, I appreciate your
I want to add something else real quick.
Please go ahead. Please.
So
go ahead.
These assets range a broad range. I mean, we have assets in Missouri that are 60,000. And then yesterday I get an email from an agent with a real somewhere in the middle of Texas. I don't know where. And he goes, "Hey, thank you. We closed our first deal with you guys." I go, "Really?" I didn't even track which one it was. And I go, "Hey, don't forget, send the referral to this amount, to this location, blah, blah, blah." And I go, "By the way, how much was it?" He goes, $2 million. It's like, I almost fell off my chair. I'm like, holy shit. So his first asset with us was $2 million. I didn't even know. And I was so jealous because, when I lived in California, I got those type of listings. I don't get those anymore. I'm in Florida, in Southwest Florida. So, I'm dealing with hurricane damage listings. So, but anyway, my point is it's broad. They're all over the place. Oh, by the way, rural areas need good agents.
They certainly do. I have one right now. It's about an hour and a half away from civilization. Getting contractors, rekeys, the whole thing. It's a challenge, but I can tell you this, that is where the market starts. It always seems to start in the rural areas, and then they make their way to us. So when you say yes to the rural properties, you automatically, at least what I've seen, you are right in line for those assets.
Yeah.
So,
and you said rekey, absolutely. In rural areas, I was doing some business in Alabama, and I actually had a listing like 2 hours from my house, and in the middle of nowhere, and it actually had a cemetery on the lot. So the front lawn was a cemetery, a family cemetery. And when, how in the hell am I going to sell this thing? But what my point is, one of those extra things, I actually have a toolbox that I carry in my truck, and I'll do the rekeys myself. I buy the defiant locks, and I go in there, and I'm not going to call it locksmith and have them charge the bank $200, $300. Sometimes I just do it as a compliment. It costs me $20. I'm there anyway. I got to inspect the property. You have to know what you're doing. It doesn't always work. There's been a couple of times I have been able to do it, and I've had to call the locksmith. But anyway, those are those little things that you do as REO agents.
I hear you, brother. Yeah, Angela just mentioned she has 4 rural HUD listings that she just got. So that's there's lots of stuff cooking. So let's recap. Obviously, we want to eat now. We want to do now business. We want to work with the FSBOs, the expireds, the pre-foreclosure. We want to work with attorneys. I recommend you doing as much research as you can on the senior market. The baby boomers, 2025 to 2045 is going to be bananas. Getting people out of that 2-story home, getting them out of that home that's the payment's too big or the house is too big, getting them to a next situation. My mom, for example, she just sold her good size home and downsized to a 1-bedroom because that's all she needs anymore. It's just her and the dog. So the baby boomers, make sure you're keeping track of those guys, making sure you're reaching out to your builders, making sure you're reaching out to your investors. But the biggest thing we cannot lose sight of, in my personal opinion, is our sphere of influence, our circle of influence. We spent so much time cultivating relationships. Don't let those go. With that said, any closing remarks before we let you go, Ralph?
No, that's it. Have a great day.
I appreciate you so very much, and everybody else on the call. I'm going to go to Tim Yates. We're going to talk about the trust. So, Ralph, if you want to stick around, you're absolutely happy to.
I am going to stick around. I'm going to put the camera down, but really quick before you continue, I know you're still in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, well, we're leaving here next week actually to go back to the long way back to California.
Okay, so I'll see you in California.
There we go. There we go.
Roger that. Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
all right. So, hey, listen, I want to bring up Tim Yates. Tim Yates is going to talk about another tool that we can add to our tool belt in the real estate game. Tim Yates, take it away, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, my friend. Again, I'm honored to be here. I founded an estate planning firm. Actually, it's more of a technology firm about a decade ago with my wife, Carrie, who is our firm's lead attorney. And we've been disrupting the estate planning industry really by working closely with real estate professionals. And for real estate professionals, our goal is to help them get more listings and without taking them off task. The only thing I'm going to add to this really quick is what I'm going to tell you is only applicable for California right now. We are growing in California. Eventually, we're going to be expanding to other states. So the information you're going to get in this is just for California. So unfortunately, if you're an agent in Florida and you want to tap into our services, unfortunately, it's not going to happen until we actually get licensed in that state. So just FYI. And mentioning numbers, let's talk about California here real quick. So this number should be shocking, or maybe it's not shocking to a lot of you in real estate, but 87.3% of California homeowners do not have a living trust. So that means 9 out of 10 people in your database or your farm don't have this service. And the truth is that everyone, needs affordable, simplified solutions. I mean, that's just the truth. And unfortunately, most people don't have an estate plan. And that's why our program works so well, is because we have created affordable, simplified solutions for people of all ages. We have clients that are in their 20s and clients up into their 90s. So it runs the gamut. So the solutions that we've created, it's really a three-pronged approach. The first solution is we know real estate professionals love to give closing gifts. Gift baskets, knives, all those things are great. We decided, though, to create the ultimate closing gift, and that's to leave the gift of legacy. So we are able to work with real estate professionals and allow them to purchase a revocable living trust package, which is a $2,500 package for just $499 as their closing gift for their clients. And again, it's been extremely successful for us and the agents. It's building clients for life. And it's something that just makes everyone extremely happy. Not to take away from any other closing gifts, but this is truly the ultimate closing gift. So we can talk more about that later. The other system we have is an estate planning 101 webinar system. We know a lot of people just don't understand what's the difference between trusts, wills, probate, all those things that are incorporated in that. So I like to host basically a 30-minute estate planning power webinars with my agent partners for their clients, for their farm, for their sphere of influence, and it works tremendously well. And it's something that I love doing, and it's something I'd love to partner up with more agents to do. And then lastly, as you know, we've launched an LDA training program, which is the best way, the analogy I could use is think of the Certified Probate Specialist program that a lot of agents get that designation, but our program is like on steroids times 10. It basically allows real estate professionals to offer estate planning services directly to their clients, generating a new income stream, allowing them to stand out from a crowded market, and it's 100% free. And that's the one thing too, like none of this costs you anything unless you want to buy one of the closing gifts. Everything is for free. It's an amazing program. We're looking to partner with the right agents as we continue to move forward. And I'll leave information in the chat room. So if anyone wants to reach out to me and have a personal conversation about this, I'd be more than happy to. And thank you for this time.
I put your info in the chat box, the registration link, as well as your contact information. Let's see. I think we've got everything for that. So Tim, thank you so much. And yeah, I tell you what, closing gift, like a living trust, talk about being a resource for that buyer or seller for a long time. That's a big deal. So yeah, definitely look into that. The bottles of champagnes and the gift baskets go away, but the living trust will stay on for a long time. So Tim Yates, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on. Ralph, thanks for being on. I call him Ralph. It goes by Rafael. You get my point. Tim Yates, thank you for everything. Are there any questions for Rafael or Tim Yates before we let everybody get back to work today? All right. We did a good job, guys. Well, everybody, thanks for jumping on the More Listings Mastermind. Appreciate your patience there with the technology difficulty. Yeah, I'll keep that second gun. I mean, laptop in my right here on my top of my desk. So, thanks for tuning in to another episode of More Listings Mastermind. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt. Tune in every single week, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Go to morenowlistings.com. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.